they think it's going to pair with an existing character based on a preview. So before you've even touched it, and then because it's a gacha game, you spend all of this money. That's where I think that there's a problem with gacha games. Yo, what's up? So I got a really interesting one today, and it's got to do with Genshin Impact, and I think it's going to have a lot of people taking one side or the other, but I think there's a lot of blame to go around here. So let's talk about how the developers of Genshin Impact have apparently messed up so bad it has players threatening to sue. So I have here a Kotaku article titled Genshin Impact fan says they're suing devs for changing a character. Okay? Now, this is obviously dramatic, and you're probably thinking, wow, you're going to sue someone for changing a character. Just wait until we talk about it a little bit because it's interesting, and I think that there's a few aspects that we can talk about here. So, Genshin Impact got a new character in September, Raiden Shogun. A vocal minority of the community believe that developer mihoyo misled fans expecting Raiden to work well with an existing playable character. Now, keep in mind that you need to wait before you do anything rash after seeing either a character reveal trailer or, say, like a beta test of a character in a video game or anything like that, because until you actually play that character, you don't really know how this is going to work out and how these are going to play. And so it's probably better to wait for something to be implemented in the game to be reviewed before you start making decisions about that thing. I think this is the same thing as when people tell you not to pre-order a video game, because until you've seen that video game live, you don't really know if you're going to like it. And by pre-ordering it, you're putting the company kind of ahead of yourself, where you're saying, like, I don't really necessarily care if I get a refund for this, where pre-orders have different refund policies than just straight up buying a game does. Maybe a little bit less so now that everything is virtual, but especially back in the day. And we've seen this with Cyberpunk 2077, where a ton of people pre-ordered the game without having seen too much of it, just trailers, and then they felt misled because of that, and they were disappointed. So it's the same thing here. Don't get ahead of yourself before something is actually released and you've seen it in the game. That's just my words of warning. During said beta test of the player, players could see that Raiden had electric abilities. In Genshin Impact, the compatibility between different party members is an important part of combat. Combining elemental abilities can create powerful effects, while using two or more characters of the same element will confer special bonuses. Raiden initially seemed to pair well with Baidu, led some players to spend actual money to gamble for Raiden. Now, this is what I'm talking about. They appeared to have electric powers, but you didn't see for sure if they did or didn't. And so when you start gambling with money and you start spending money on this stuff, then you're going to get into a situation where you're potentially not getting what you thought you were, because you thought it had electric powers. You didn't confirm that at all. You just started spending money, and then it didn't have what you thought. So your expectation is just wrong, because just because it appears something like something doesn't mean that it actually is that thing, right? And now you could say that this is a poor design choice, or that mihoyo needed to make this more obvious. Okay, fine, but consider this. There's a lot of things that go on in development. It could have just been a design issue and they didn't really think that far ahead. But regardless, they messed up. Sure, they should have made it more obvious. They should have made the spell look more akin to the type of damage that it does. But you got to also understand that sometimes these mistakes happen. So don't spend your money immediately. Just relax a little bit and wait until you're 100% certain how this is going to work out. Secondly, we also have this issue where they think it's going to pair with an existing character based on a preview. So before you've even touched it, and then because it's a gacha game, you spend all of this money. That's where I think that there's a problem with gacha games, is because now people are spending money to get this character because they think that this character is going to pair well with their existing character and it's going to be an awesome combo. But that's not what happened. They were wrong. They perceived it wrong. It was displayed incorrectly by the company. And then so they spent money before they knew what they were getting. That's a problem. And then not only that, you're gambling. So some people might have got it on the first gamble. Some people might have got it on the 100th, 1,000th, 10,000th gamble, whatever. I doubt people are spending that much money, but you get what I mean. Like, you don't know when you're gambling when or if you're even going to get this character, so you just end up spending more money. Several times after she was released to the public, her ability descriptions were changed. So that's another thing. After she was released, she was changed. So now it's beginning to be more and more on mihoyo's fault, right? Because now they're changing the description. It doesn't say what that description originally was, but either way, they are basically admitting that there was something wrong with this description or potentially misleading about it. So now you have the company being like, ooh, maybe that's not the best description. It could be misleading people. So then they change it. And it says they do that multiple times. So now you have people who maybe read the description, thought it was electric, and then purchased it as well. So those people, I feel like, have zero blame. If you read it, it says it does like electric damage or whatever. And you're like, okay, I'm going to buy that for my combo. And then it doesn't do that. That's just wrong from the company, and I would go so far as to say that is false advertising from the company, since you are spending money on this game. I know technically you don't have to, but really that's how these gacha games work, is they make it so unlikely for you to get what you want without spending money that you're basically forced to. So now it's starting to look like a really big issue when it comes to the developers and designers and the marketing of this game, and like how this description was changed multiple times, and potentially how this beta slash character teaser displayed the character as possibly having electric powers. Now we're seeing that the company probably really messed up here, and it's becoming less and less easy to blame players for just wait and to spend your money. I still encourage people to wait to spend their money, but now it's looking like the developers kind of are admitting that they messed up. Now we have some likening it to corporate deception, or at least sloppiness. So I don't know. You could say the company is trying to sell more of it, so they intentionally lie or make the description vague or misleading so that people buy it more. I'm going to go ahead and say it's more likely sloppiness, because I don't know if people would have bought it less if it was described correctly the first time, or if it displayed the type of damage correctly the first time. I'd have to know a lot more about Genshin Impact to know if that's even like a potentiality. It seems more likely that they just messed up here and then didn't really take any responsibility for it. So I would go less so saying that it's corporate deception and more so saying that they messed up and they're dumb. One Chinese player was apparently upset enough at the changes from the beta that they threatened to sue. On September 1st, that player posted a photo of their law license in miHoYo's official boards while airing their grievances. 5 days later, a potentially different user threatened to sue miHoYo for fraud on different forum, eventually editing the post to include a photo of a Chinese court portal. So now you have people who spent money, and this is essentially what I was talking about at the beginning. This is almost like false advertising. They thought they were buying something that they didn't get, right? It's like you thought you were buying a PS5 because the eBay description said it was a PS5, but then they sent you just the PS5 box. You could probably get your money back or possibly sue them for something like that. In this case, they're like, I thought I was getting a character that did this because of your description and your marketing, but that's not really what happened. You basically lied through the description and marketing, and now I want my money back because I spent money to get this thing that wasn't even what I thought it was, because you did poor marketing. Okay, so that's why I say that now it's not really such a crazy thing that these people are suing the company or threatening to sue the company, because they really feel like they were lied to by the company's marketing to purchase this thing, and then it wasn't what they thought it was. You would do the same thing if you thought a company, like a commercial or the advertising for a product, was for something that it didn't do at all. You would probably you'd in most cases be able to return that. But in some cases, if you weren't, you might actually sue the company for doing this. This happens in America too. So it's not so crazy once you get past this clickbait headline for what's actually happening here. Of course, I don't blame them for this. It's really, really hard to put this into a succinct way, because this is actually kind of a really hard problem to describe without making an entire article about it. But honestly, this is understandable, much more so than just like getting mad that the character was not as cool as you thought or whatever. This is actual money they spent for a tangible benefit in the game that they didn't get. The confirmation page notes that the court will respond to their filings within 7 days, at which point a judge will make a decision about what happens next. Okay, so basically, we're going to see what happens with this, which is kind of interesting. This happened yesterday. It says 7 days. So it says 7 days. So we'll find out in like maybe a week or so of when this was posted. And hopefully it will be, in my opinion, it should go to the consumers in this case. But that is my problem with gacha games, and the why there needs to be some, like, you need to be careful when you're purchasing things in a game, but at some point you can no longer blame the player, because if the description says it's electric damage and it's already out in the game and you have to gamble to get it, then there's not really much other things you can do than just spend money to try to get it because you think you know what it's going to do, but it's not. And if you bought it or you just immediately started spending money because you saw the character reveal, I'd say maybe at that point you could blame the players a little bit, but even then the company needs to do a better job at displaying their game and their characters and how they work and all that stuff. So in the end, I think that the players are a little bit to blame if they got into this real early, but based on these things that they say, like the description being weird and the trailer being misleading and they having to change the description multiple times, now it's mostly like, dang, the company really seems to have messed this one up and potentially been corrupt in a way. I don't think that they were, but maybe. And so now we're at this point where it's like, gacha games are really, you have to be very careful as a player and if you're the company about how these things get marketed and how you start spending money on this game. If you're a player, why would you need to sit down a little bit and relax, I think, because gacha games you can end up spending a lot of money on and it's going to be really bad for you in the long run. But as the company, if you know your game is centered around gambling and spending money in this way, then please don't make your descriptions vague, and you need to make your designs better, in my opinion. So that is my last thoughts on this. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you do, please drop a like and consider subscribing to the channel for more stuff like this. But yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.